Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion, place of Binding of Isaac Adderith Plus. You ready? 3, 2, 1, unrecognized gamepad, please. How about you, please? Mind your own business, okay? The wheel doesn't concern you, Edmund. The wheel is a different input device for different sorts of games. G0, F8, 3QHB. Stats are bad. Spacebar item is fine, but I definitely think that the Pokeball is one of those items is cool. It's got a great idea. I love its spirit, okay? But I don't really like it in practice that much. Usually, I find it's more interesting. Ooh, I love that despite our rate of fire. I find it's more interesting conceptually than it is in practice. And that's okay, because, I mean, we're talking about practice. Practice, not a game. Not the game that I love. The game that I dedicated my life to. The game that I show up and give my blood, sweat, and tears for. We're talking about in practice. That's not how the quote works. Anyway, that's Allen Iverson. Anybody who grew up watching SportsCenter will know that quote. Because I can't speak for other parts of the world, but I know definitely in the U.S. and Canada, there's a sporting network, either ESPN or TSN, and when they got nothing else to play, they play SportsCenter over and over. SportsCenter is like, it gives you the highlights of every sporting event that took place during that day, and it, honestly, in the internet saturated era, it was really valuable. This is making myself look like I'm 100 years old. But you know how I used to get NHL scores before we had access to the TSN network in my hometown? I'd get the freaking newspaper as like an 8-year-old, and I would take the score from the newspaper as like I would be like, oh, my team lost last night. Like I didn't even have radio access to listen to the games like it was the 1940s or something like that. Is I open the newspaper and be like, oh, Vincent Damphus scored 2 last night. Way to go, bud. Anyway, after that, before digital cable, satellite dishes became super present everywhere, you turn on SportsCenter. But the other thing about SportsCenter is that it's also like a variety program. So every day something will happen like, oops, an outfielder dropped the baseball. As a result of that, it inspires like a top 10 biggest sports gaffes. Number 10. And then it's like, the video of the pop fly that hits Jose Canseco on the top of his head and then goes over the wall for a home run. And then, over the course of 5 or 6 years watching this program, you realize they're just recycling like the same 7 or 8 clips over and over. But anyway, what was I talking about? It doesn't matter. Hope you guys had a good weekend. It's not over yet. I mean, we're only halfway through Sunday, but my day off is complete. But today, speaking of the Pokeball, that's right, it's Mudkip Community Day. What does that mean for me? Look, I'm still not at a place in my life where I feel okay going outside for 3 hours and catching the exact same Pokemon over and over. But I am at a place in my life where, to be honest with you, I could do it for 90 minutes. Yeah, and for real, I'm looking forward to it. If anybody has a problem with that, speak now or forever hold your peace. Actually, I had a really, really nice, low-key day off yesterday. We, basically left the house leisurely after doing, every Saturday, especially now that I'm on camera, Saturday is like my, hey, shave your head, face, nose, and ears day. If you don't like to hear it, then, so be it. Here's the thing. Maybe you're watching this and you're 16 years old and you're like, I don't want to have ear hair when I'm 30. Look, I'm here to tell you something positive. You probably will not. Most of my friends and peers, I want this to be known, okay? I'm an early birthday. I'm a November birthday. I was usually one of the 3 or 4 youngest kids in all of my classes. So I'm like the baby. And I went bald at 19. I grow, I mean, you could just watch it in the videos and streams with face cam. I grow like 25% of a full beard over the course of a single week. It's absurd. It's absurd to the point of inconvenience, honestly. Well, what are you going to do about it? Hold on, I'm going to caffeinate. But, okay, hold on. What do we got? Let's get the heck out of town. We'll think about this, but for now, I think we're in a very, very good spot. But anyway, the thing is, please do not take me as your average 30-year-old man when it comes to body hair-related issues. Let me put it this way. I'm hairier than Steve Carell now than Steve Carell was when he was in the 40-Year-Old Virgin. Now, he probably wasn't 40 when he was... I mean, if he was 40, Steve Carell, he takes good care of himself. I mean, he's kind of become like a jacked... I don't want to say like a sex symbol, but you get the idea. Steve Carell, let's see how old he would have been in like 2005. He would have been... Dude, he would have been 43. He actually definitely was. I mean, he probably wasn't a 40-year-old virgin. He has like 2 kids or something. But anyway, so, you know, and this has been true as of probably like my mid-20s. As of my mid-20s, I was hairier than a man who had a scene in a famous Hollywood movie for making fun of him for how hairy he was, if that makes sense. So we're talking about like... you know, I'm an order of magnitude outside of the norm, to be honest. But anyway, the point is, you know, you don't understand if you don't have it, it needs taken care of. You know, the back, chest, stomach, inside of the elbows, back of the neck, etc. You know, my back, my neck, etc., etc. You know, that stuff, you kind of let it go. But you got to take care of the visage. Otherwise, it'll be overgrown in no time flat. So that was how I spent the first part of my Saturday. And I mean, I've now spent more time talking about it than it actually takes to do. But that's, you know, what you got to do when you got to create content on a daily basis. But after that, we just, you know, we had to renew our car insurance. So we just went for like a, you know, nice little walk. And on the way... You know, we're like, hey, you want to take over this gym? Yeah. Hey, you want to do this Armored Mewtwo raid? Hey, you want to do this Tyranitar raid? Hey, you want to do this Machamp raid? Hey, you want to do this Armored Mewtwo raid? It was a very, very good, just relaxing day, honestly, with beautiful weather. I got no complaints whatsoever. I mean, I didn't, to be honest, I wish again, I've talked about how Let's check this out. I know we only have 1 HP right now. I don't think you know, I will, but only because we have a Satanic Bible, now that I think about it. I've talked about, like, how on the weekends, you know, now that I've taken a day off, and it's probably been, like, a year since I started taking Saturdays off. I've been struggling with this idea that on Saturdays, they're kind of like your research day for work, where you go out and, like, you know, I got to get more anecdotes. It's not, I don't really feel that pull anymore. And to be honest, it's nice to just have a day to do whatever you want. I did like a crap load of errands. Did like 6 loads of laundry. Cooked some Beyond Burgers. Nice homemade salad with homemade salad dressing. I know that sounds like a euphemism. It's not. For dinner, it was fantastic. Got ahead on the chore debt that sometimes builds up as adults when you're busy. Okay, we're a little light on HP. We really, like, the run is very good. And I'm happy we got some progressive damage with the finger here, but we could use some extra... DPS. Like, just literal DPS. And I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty good about society right now. Starting to run out of anecdotes of people behaving badly. I think it's, you know, my videos have finally hit a critical mass, and people are people are taking notice and they're behaving well in public, and it feels good. Like I saw The Lion King on Friday. For those of you who want to know how The Lion King is, if you read the critical and audience reactions to it, you already know how it is. Look, The Lion King is probably my favorite Disney animated movie from when I was a kid. But it took watching it in theaters again to remember, oh, right, this is a movie for kids, I found myself having comments in the movie that were almost, and I want to be clear, I enjoyed it at least decently, but I was like, man, we expected to believe that the character of Nala just developed this quickly. I mean, we saw her once as a cub, and now she's supposed to be like this all-powerful lioness. I don't know if I buy it. Then I was like, hey, idiot, look around you. Like, the movie is exclusively, or the audience, I should say, was exclusively people my age who saw the movie as a kid, and it got sucked in by a nostalgia bait, and then people like, that have kids who were the age that I was when I saw The Lion King the first time. I was like, all right, it's a movie for children. I would definitely not, I would not say it's a must-see in theaters. The visual effects were really good, but, although it's disappointing a little bit for me to say, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than Aladdin, but mostly just because, thank you for not hurting me at least, mostly because I like the source material a lot more than I like Aladdin. I think the movies were roughly the same quality. And although it's sort of a condemnation to say this, I actually think Aladdin is a little bit more interesting. I think they kind of went in a slightly braver direction by changing literally any element of the story in Aladdin, but I digress. The other thing is, and again, it sounds very negative, the movie, it's a breezy watch, let me put it that way. And it's a nice little nostalgia trip if you're into it, but I'm definitely not breathlessly like, you gotta go see The Lion King. Has to happen. Help. I can't believe I'm so tight here, by the way, but it is what it is. The other thing is, I really thought it had to be a slam dunk, because you got Beyonce Knowles on the soundtrack, and I want to be clear. I know that the original is Elton John. Obviously amazing songwriter and singer. But I feel like they kind of squandered both Beyonce and Donald Glover a little bit. I was waiting for something. And really what I left with was not like, oh, they squandered Beyonce. I left and I was like, man, Elton John crushed it. I took it for granted back in 1994. But dude, Elton John, on one single soundtrack, he busted out The Circle of Life, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? I'm trying to think of what else he sang in the movie. I don't know. He might have only done I'm trying to think. Just Can't Wait to Be King. I don't know if he wrote it. Obviously, I think it was performed by like Jonathan Taylor Thomas or something. But anyway, regardless, I did see I go on Rotten Tomatoes because I admire film criticism. That's a joke, because that's not really what that website is. But I like to get a bead for how people feel about movies, how the critics feel, how the audience feels, and what the difference is. Rotten Tomatoes put out a critical consensus that was like, and this is just from looking at the reviews that actual professional critics have put out. And I have to admit, I'm not trying to be negative, cynical, jaded, etc., but the replies to this made me lose a little bit of faith in humanity. Because the consensus was like, it's serviceable, but, it is a little bit, it suffers from the fact that it's too faithful of a recreation. And then some of the comments, I think that's a pretty nuanced approach, But literally some of the comments were like, who paid you to have this opinion? Rotten Tomatoes. The critics put out a hit on The Lion King. First you complain that remakes are too original, Something I don't think anybody has ever done. And now you're complaining that it's too much of the same. Make up your mind. Real, lifelong fans of The Lion King got exactly what they wanted. And that's where I mean, obviously everything that was said there is very dumb. But I kind of took issue, and I was like, what do you mean a lifelong fans of The Lion King? Do you mean that you saw the movie when you were a kid and you've been a fan your whole life? Or have you been a part of the Lion King fandom for your whole life? Because if it's the latter, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's one movie that came... I mean, I guess there's like, you know, the video game. And then they probably did like a Lion King 2, straight back to the Disney Vault if you don't buy it immediately. But like, what do you mean you're a lifelong fan of the Lion King? It's one movie. When people are like, oh, I'm a big fan of Marvel, I'm like, okay, I get it. They release like 2 or 3 movies a year. I understand. When people are like, I'm a big fan of James Bond, I'm like, all right, I comprehend. I don't really understand because they've been making the movies since the 1960s. I've seen probably 75% of them, and I think there's like 8 Bond movies in history that are worth watching. But anyway, look, okay, From Russia with Love and Dr. No, Goldfinger, Thunderball, GoldenEye, Casino Royale, Skyfall. That's right. My brain was going Spectre, and I'm like, no, not brain, not Spectre. And then, you know, you could take one from the Roger Moore era, okay? I want you to, I mean, you don't have to trust me. You can have your own opinion, obviously, but I want you to recognize that I'm smack dab in that demographic of, like, you know, Pierce Brosnan was James Bond when I was a kid. You know, that's the James Bond for my generation. He's smooth. He smacks a little bit of like technology, futuristic technology that we didn't know where it was going. People were like, holy crap, dude. There's a satellite in this movie. His watch has a flippin' laser in it. Anyway. And even still, there's one good Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie, is GoldenEye. Now, GoldenEye is not good. It's great. It has a case to maybe be the best Bond movie, I think. But Tomorrow Never Dies is okay. The World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day are both terrible. I implore you, if you have not seen them since you were a young whippersnapper with the movie channel, watch them again if you want to defend them. If you decide after watching it, you're like, I actually like this movie, then by all means. But otherwise, don't make me laugh. Dude, I need DPS, please. DPS, please. I beg you. But when people are like, I've been a fan of this one movie since I was a kid, I'm like, that's cause for alarm. I mean, I have been a fan of The Lion King since I was a kid, but I would never be like, you know, Peter Travers of the Rolling Stone film department. You don't know what you're talking about. Also, I mean, I'm like becoming what I hated in the anecdotes prior to seeing the movie, but if you find yourself feeling like you need to go to bat to defend the Lion King in theaters, just remember the fact that, you know, this movie is going to make, I don't know, infinity dollars. It's going to make so much money. And that's okay. I mean, it doesn't not deserve to make so much money. Because the film business is not necessarily a meritocracy. And that's kind of what annoys me to begin with. I'm not going to get into it, but people are like, why would you pay Disney $25 to go see The Lion King? And I'm like, well, last week I paid A24 $25 to go see Midsommar. Well, you were sitting in your apartment doing salacious things to pirated adult videos. So if you want to talk to me about being a blight on the media landscape because I supported Disney, put your money where your mouth is and, you know, go see literally anything interesting in theaters. Instead of sitting at home stealing movies and thinking that you're doing something good for the industry by giving them your attention. Anyway, that's all I'm saying, okay? Regardless, like I said, it's always just a good time to be at the movie theater. But I think we're done for a bit. think I'm out. I'm trying to think of what is even coming out soon, and I'm like, I think maybe we finally made it past the summer season. And it's, I don't say that with pleasure because, you know, I've enjoyed going to the movies this summer. This is probably the most movies I've seen in a single year in my whole life, including the summer that Spider-Man 1 came out. I think it's the only movie. Well, now I'm trying to think. Can you think of a movie that you've seen more than once in theaters? I know that, like, there are, like, super Marvel fans. Like, I'm a big fan, fair to say. I go see the movies opening night almost every time. Even still, I have not seen a Marvel movie twice in theaters. Thought about it. I guess we still could for Endgame. It's still in theaters in some places, but it also comes out in digital media in like a week. So, I think the last movie I saw twice in theaters, and maybe the only movie I've ever seen twice in theaters, was Spider-Man 1. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a minute. I might have seen... Oh, we also got the Boneheart from Fingerbone there. I might have seen The Dark Knight in theaters. Actually, you know what? I'm very wrong. There's a fuzzy period of my life where I was in college, and I'm now going through that, like, you know, page by page. And I'm like, I definitely saw The Hangover in theaters like 2 or 3 times. Sure, let's take this for some AoE. And I will suffer no criticism for that, by the way. Hangover 1 is actually one of the best comedies, or at least one of the best studio comedies that came out in that decade. The Hangover 2, 3, Zach Galifianakis' zany baby adventures. It's a satchel. Remember that? Indiana Jones had one. All that stuff can, you know, die in a fire as far as I'm concerned. Not the people involved. I had no problem with Zach Galifianakis. Apart from that, I might have seen The Dark Knight twice. That I'm struggling to remember. I don't really care if we make it the boss rush here. Although we do have AWAS. Dude, we need some DPS. We need a tiers upgrade. Before I can continue my conversation about films for the 3rd video in a row. But I am interested to hear what other people have seen twice in theaters. Because the way I see it, there's like a couple of different ways it happens. One way that it happens is people are like, I really like this movie, I want to see it twice. And then the other way it happens is people are like, I really want to see this movie. And you're like, well, I already saw the movie, but I like my friends, so I guess I'll go see it again. I will say, if you want a kind of a... Here's like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode premise for you. I saw The Hangover opening weekend 10 years ago. Like 2 weeks later, a bunch of my friends wanted to go see The Hangover. And I know you're like, well, if this happened, how did you end up seeing the movie twice? It's a long story involving paying to see Terminator Salvation and realizing about 45 minutes into that movie that it was truly awful. Anyway. The statute of limitations is over on that. Regardless, I know where I am. They were like, hey, do you want to go to the theater to see The Hangover? And I was like, yeah, I'll go to the theater with you. And then they went up and they were like, hey, you know, 1 ticket for The Hangover, please. 1 ticket for The Hangover, please. 1 ticket for The Hangover, please. We're college students. Nobody's footing the bill. We're all buying our own tickets individually, as is our sovereign right, by the way. And then I went up and I went, hey, 1 ticket for Bruno, please. See you guys back at home. I can't remember. It was either Bruno or District 9, but I'm pretty sure it was Bruno. I'm trying to think of when the timings matched up. Because I saw 2 movies alone. And you know what? I had a great time, to be honest. I still think Bruno's a little bit underrated. It's not nearly as good as Borat. But anyway. If you've never been to the movies alone, you know, I recommend it. Sometimes I see people on Twitter that are my age or older, and they talk about how, and this is not like it's not making fun of them, because above all else, I'm concerned with social norms to begin with. And pretty much every bit that I have from the grocery store is like, hey, some guy from the grocery store was doing something that's not considered something that's normally done at the grocery store, And people are like, wow, that dude's crazy. It's like my brand. But the thing is, I see people that are my age or older that are like, hey, is it weird to go to a restaurant by yourself? Is it weird to go to the movie theater by yourself to see something you really want to see? And I'm like, dude, I'm eternally grateful. God, I hate the matriarch, by the way, but I'm eternally grateful that I learned that lesson, when I was 20 years old. You want to go to the movie theater by yourself to see other people don't want to see a movie with you? Go see whatever movie you want to go see. You don't have to collaborate on seeing. You don't have to go see garbage, or something you're not interested in just because everybody else is like, oh, let's go see The Crimes of Grindelwald, No offense, J.K. Rowling. Why not? Well, this will be a nice, save for us if we need it. Similarly, I really like eating alone, to be honest with you. And I ate alone, like, out before smartphones even existed. Routinely. I'm talking, when I lived in Korea, go out and, eat at a Korean restaurant by myself, reading a Korean language newspaper. I don't even speak Korean. I know under 500 words of Korean. Might sound like a lot. It's not. Just the experience of like being by yourself, doing whatever you want. It's like a definitive like early adult experience, I tried to make that run. No! I just like... I just wanna, please. No! I'm getting mind flooded. I can't finish my train of thought, but like, dude, this is a truly, actually horrible run. That is saved exclusively by the existence... Oh my god. I actually jumped in my chair when that happened. Is saved exclusively by Lil Brim Monstro's Lung. And Little Brim isn't even Lil Brim. It's just delirium right now. Like, we desperately... I mean, Small Rock has been helpful too. But we desperately need a Tears upgrade. Like... immediately. Anyway, we'll figure it out. That being said, the Lion King opening night was packed. It was really, really busy. I was sitting next to a woman, maybe a little bit older than me, who was sitting by herself. And I was like, okay, I can concoct a situation. Not that it's any of my business, but I can concoct a situation in my head where this happened, And then I kind of thought we were like kindred spirits. I was like, oh, a fellow solo moviegoer, huh? You ever do that? Like, when you're in a situation with strangers, you're kind of like, hey, that's my people right there. We're cut from the same cloth. I would jump in front of a bullet for that lady. And then about an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, she pulled out her cell phone and texted somebody. And I said, how dare you? You betrayed me. I thought we were siblings from another parent, and you go and you break a social norm like that. How dare you? How dare you? Where do you freaking get off? Telling your kids the movie's good and you'll be home soon. Insulting. Okay, please God. We have a 33% chance of a deal with the devil. We can win the run without a deal with the devil, and we can win the run without dying to get Dark Judas, but I would really like to, finesse either of those into existence if possible. But anyway, that was my day off. It was basically like, 4 or 5 hours of walking around in the sun, doing errands, playing Pokemon Go. This weekend, or on Friday, I should say, we saw The Lion King. It was a decent time. Breezy movie. Not uncomfortable to watch, like Midsummer. That's pretty much it. You know, folding a bunch of laundry, playing a little Slay the Spire on the Switch. I did see Slay the Spire. They teased a new character. Maybe not a new character, but I mean they announced there would be a new character in one of their patch notes, and then also they tweeted a screenshot of like a purple eye blinking. And then, like, 7 people hit me with my exact emotion, which is just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. But I think I'm, you know, I've burned off a lot of the resentment that maybe I had felt, not at the game, but, you know, at the difficulty of Ascension 20, and then some aspects of the community, admittedly. I haven't been shy about mentioning that in the past, so it would feel disingenuous to not bring that up, but... I think I've burned that off. I've had a healthy sabbatical, and whenever it comes, if it comes out in a month, sure, I'm eager to go back. If it comes back in a year, I'm not gonna say even better. I'm down to play it in a year. I'm excited for that. And dude, I think Slay the Spire, like, there are still people, maybe not as many, but there are still people who are sleeping on that. On the impact that game is going to have, I think, on the indie landscape. I think it's such a designer's game. Like, it's so well designed. And we're already seeing the first couple of echoes. You know, in the same way that, really, like, Isaac is not the first roguelike. But I believe that its success, both critically and commercially, ushered in... Was the linchpin when it came to... Hold on, I want to see if maybe this is a good time to become Dark Judas. Ushered in an era... I'm just going to go for it, dude. Where roguelites became a little bit more popular for a while. I truly believe that, to be honest with you. I think Slay the Spire could have a similar, although probably smaller effect on the indie landscape. Like... So there's a game that came out a couple of days ago called Nowhere Prophet that is like, it's a deck building roguelite. And I was like, I get it. You played Slay the Spire. I haven't played Nowhere Prophet yet, but I definitely will because this game is opened my eyes. And then like perhaps the best vote of confidence that you can get that your game is very good is what happened recently where Clay, the Vancouver-based developer, they did... Don't Starve is probably their most famous game, but they also did Oxygen Not Included. They also did, they did Shank way back in the demo. They've done Invisible Ink, which is considered, you know, maybe one of the most underrated indie games of the past 10 years. People who love that game truly love it. And Clay's, like, MO, to some extent, is like, hey, another developer made a very good game. And this sounds insulting to them. I don't mean it that way. Another developer made a very good game, and that's inspired us to make a Clayified version of that game. That's the way I see it, at least. RimWorld does really well. It inspires Clay to make a Clayified RimWorld called Oxygen Not Included. Also a great game. XCOM Enemy Unknown comes out. Clay goes, hey, we can do that. They make Invisible Ink. A game that I also really liked, but did not finish, and it'll be an eternal regret for me. They got a new game in alpha called Griftlands. That a terrible dodge. And it's a Slay the Spire style deck builder that also has RPG elements and story mechanics associated with it. That's how you know your game has made it, when Clay sits up and takes notice. Dude, we are a little bit under the gun. It's a little risky here, but we super made the right decision, I think, to become Dark Judas when we did. I feel like I can actually kill enemies in a timely fashion now. So anyway, if you're still sleeping on Slay the Spire, it's, you know,
you insult me to some extent. You don't have to buy it as long as you're like aware of the game. That's all I ask. But I still sometimes, you know, I get people that tweet me and they're like, "Hey, sell me on Slay the Spire." No. You know, I don't work for the company, and I literally put like 20 work weeks of full-time work into putting that game up on YouTube. If you're not sold, why does everything have to be, you know, made for you? Just if you believe that I could make a 700 episode series or something and then be like, you know, well, I don't know, it's kind of like a middling, I don't know, it's like a 7 out of 10. Well, then, you know, you're living in fantasy land, brother. Regardless, I kind of got off topic, but the other reason to be excited about Slay the Spire DLC is because up to this point, they've only released new stuff that has been extremely good. They don't do, and again, I say this with no disrespect meant to Isaac. Isaac has like 45 items that do the same thing, you know? Isaac has a lot of bloat. And that bloat it serves the purpose of the game to some extent because you want it to be like a slot machine when you walk into a room, an item room at least. However, at the same time, they're like, hey, there's 500 items in the game, but really there's probably like, I don't know, 350 unique effects that you can get more or less. Spire is like the exact opposite. Spire is like, hey guys, huge news today. We crunched all of our data. We added one single card that filled a niche previously that was unserved. So when they add something, you know that they've got like a good reason to add it. There's only a couple of things in Spire where I'm like, dude, I don't get it. Fire breathing, I still don't understand. It tends to be extremely horrible, but apart from that, that's the other reason to be excited here. I'm stoked this run. It came together. There was some a sag, you know, in the middle of this where it actually seemed like it was fairly plausible. We could either lose or be miserable, but it all came together in the end. The only thing that has not come together is my navigational ability. Please, Lord. I think we've hit about 1,500 dead ends. Not mathematically plausible, but you get the general idea. And moreover, I haven't even talked about it, but I'm not sick anymore. You know, occasionally I still gotta, like, you know, blow my nose like once every 3 hours or something like that, but I'm excited for a new week as a result of that. Last week, I was busy, but I wasn't as busy as I'd like to be as a result of the fact that, I was struggling with a little bit of rhinovirus. But here we are. And coming into the week on a positive note, too, considering that we got 9 wins in a row. First time we've gotten close to a double-digit streak in like 3 weeks, unfortunately. For now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For the next watching, I will see you next time. See ya!